the closest people often hold the sharpest blades. We reveal the shocking stories of broken trust and the incredible strength it takes to rise above the pain of betrayal. Subscribe now to witness these intense narratives and never miss a single update.
My husband is at a rooftop bar right now, toasting to his new beginning with the woman he thinks no one knows about. Meanwhile, I'm sitting in my attorney's office signing documents that will dismantle every single thing he spent the last 12 years pretending he built alone. The irony? The pen I'm using was a gift from his firm, a firm that exists because of my connections, my capital, and my name. My hands don't shake, they never do anymore. Before I became Victoria Harmon, I was Victoria Chen, the youngest litigation partner at Chen & Associates, the firm my father built from nothing in Chicago's South Loop. I know how money moves. I know how people hide it. And I know, better than most, exactly how far someone will go when they believe the person sitting across the breakfast table from them is simply too comfortable, too trusting, too in love to look closely at the numbers. My husband made that mistake 11 months ago. He just doesn't know I know yet. Are you certain about the timeline? My attorney, Patricia, slides a folder across her glass desk. She's been handling high-asset divorces for 23 years. She told me last week she's never seen documentation this thorough. I took that as a compliment. Once we file the first motion, everything accelerates. I turn my phone face up so she can see the notification on my screen. My husband just checked into the Langham Hotel. His corporate card. The same one I've been mirroring on a secondary account for the past 7 months. The timeline, I tell her, clicking the pen, is already running. It started like most things do, with something small. A Tuesday in October, almost a year ago. I was reviewing quarterly projections for the foundation, my family's charitable foundation, the one I've managed since my father's stroke 3 years ago, when I noticed a discrepancy. $14,000 moved from a sub-account we rarely touched, routed through a vendor I didn't recognize. Harmon Strategy Group. I assumed it was a billing error at first. Maybe my husband's firm had set up a new consulting arrangement and forgotten to brief me, so I mentioned it to him over dinner. He didn't miss a beat. "Oh, that's the new digital outreach contractor Patricia recommended. I'll get you the paperwork." He poured more wine. He kissed my cheek. He went to bed early claiming a headache. The paperwork never came. I am a litigation attorney. I spent 15 years teaching myself to notice what people don't say as much as what they do. My husband is a brilliant architect, genuinely gifted, nationally recognized, 3 magazine covers in 4 years. But he is not a liar by training. He is a liar by convenience, and there is a difference. Convenience liars always leave threads. I pulled the thread. Harmon Strategy Group was registered in Delaware 7 months before I ever heard the name. Listed director, Megan Harmon. My husband's last name, not his sister. She lives in Portland, and I called her 2 days later under the pretense of planning his birthday dinner. Not his mother, who passed 4 years ago. I hired a forensic accountant named David, an old colleague from my father's firm, on a Thursday afternoon. I told my husband I was at a gallery opening. By the following Tuesday, David had traced 31 separate transactions from 4 different accounts. 2 business, 2 personal. All flowing toward Megan Harmon's company. Total, just under $400,000 over 18 months. I didn't cry. I made a spreadsheet. Her name is Megan Walsh. She was hired as a junior project coordinator at my husband's firm 2 years ago, fresh out of grad school. She's 29. She started using his last name on the Delaware registration 8 months into the affair, which, based on the first hotel receipt David found, began almost immediately after she joined the firm. I know their routine better than they do. Wednesday lunches at a wine bar in River North, always the corner booth. Friday evenings at the Langham when he tells me he's having dinner with his project team. Sunday mornings when he claims he's reviewing site plans at the office. She posts workout photos with geotags 2 blocks away. They've been careless in the way people always get careless when they believe they're invisible. I spent 4 months being invisible right back. My college friend Renata is a family law partner in New York, who relocated to Chicago 2 years ago. I've known her since we were 22, studying for the bar exam on the floor of her apartment. She sat in my kitchen on a Sunday afternoon surrounded by printouts, shaking her head slowly. He registered a fake company under her using his own last name. she said flatly. That's not just an affair, that's financial fraud. I know. Victoria, she looked at me over her coffee. You've been living with this for how long? 4 months of documentation, 11 months since I noticed. She set her cup down. You are either the most composed person I've ever met, or you are absolutely terrifying. Both, I said and pulled up the next spreadsheet. What my husband never understood, what men like him never seem to understand, is that marrying into a family like mine comes with an education they don't print in brochures. My father taught me to read a balance sheet before I could drive. He taught me that the most dangerous thing in any financial arrangement is the assumption that the other party isn't paying attention. My husband assumed, he assumed for 2 years apparently. That assumption is about to become the most expensive mistake of his architectural career. The foundation is the piece that changes everything. The Chen Family Foundation is not simply a charitable organization. It holds partial interest in 3 commercial properties my father developed before his stroke, and it functions under a board that includes 2 of the most respected names in Chicago philanthropy. When my husband began siphoning from its sub-accounts, even small amounts, even routed cleverly, he didn't just steal from our marriage, he stole from a nonprofit. That carries a different category of consequences entirely. I called the foundation's legal counsel, a man named Howard who has known my family for 30 years, on the Tuesday morning in January. I explained what I had found. There was a very long pause. Does Marcus know you're calling me? He asked. Marcus is my husband. No, I said. And he won't until Monday. Howard's team spent the next 6 weeks conducting their own review. They found what David found and then found more. Shell payments to Megan's company labeled as digital outreach and stakeholder communications. Grant funds redirected through a vendor account that, on paper, provided web services to nonprofits but in reality had no clients, no employees, and no operational footprint beyond a registered address in Delaware. My husband had been using my family's charitable foundation to finance his girlfriend's income for over a year. I kept going to spin class on Saturday mornings. I kept attending his firm's client dinners. I kept wearing the earrings he bought me for our anniversary last spring, the ones he charged to the foundation's discretionary account, a detail I found in March and said nothing about. I smiled at the right moments and asked about his projects and made his coffee the way he likes it. And every evening after he fell asleep, I sat in my father's old study and I worked. Renata arrived the Sunday before filing day with a bottle of Barolo and a stack of final documents. My cousin Jason, who now runs my father's firm, dialed in from New York. David joined remotely. Howard's team had already sent their referral to the Illinois Attorney General's office 2 weeks prior. A routine audit, on paper. Everything is positioned, Renata said, spreading the documents across the dining table where my husband and I hosted Thanksgiving 12 days ago. The foundation's board votes tomorrow morning, Jason confirmed. They're removing him from any affiliated signatory positions, unanimously. And the AG? I asked. They received the referral last week, Howard said. Given the volume and the nonprofit status, they move quickly. The formal notice goes to his firm Monday morning. I looked at the documents, 12 years of marriage reduced to paper, and paper is something I have always understood. My husband texted me at 9:15 that night. Stuck in a late design review, don't wait up. Love you. I have every text like this saved and timestamped for the past 11 months. 47 of them correspond exactly with Megan's Instagram activity. She has a habit of posting the view from hotel rooms, always tasteful, never explicit, but the curtains and the light fixtures are recognizable if you're paying attention. I've been paying attention. I typed back, no worries. Good luck with the presentation tomorrow. His presentation to the Tribune Tower Development Committee, the one he's been preparing for 3 months. The one that will be interrupted. Monday morning arrives clean and cold. The kind of Chicago February day that feels like a reset. I dressed deliberately. Navy blazer, my mother's pearl bracelet, heels I bought myself when I made partner. My husband is already up when I come downstairs, moving through the kitchen with the particular energy of someone who believes today is going to be magnificent. He's bringing croissants from the French bakery on Halsted, his guilt morning ritual I catalogued 6 months ago. Big day, he says, handing me coffee. You have no idea, I say, and I mean it warmly, and he hears exactly what he expects to hear. He kisses my cheek. I let him. I note the time, 7:43 a.m. At 9 a.m., Renata files the divorce petition in Cook County. At 9:06, our joint accounts are flagged under a financial protection order. At 9:15, the Foundation's board issues a formal statement removing my husband from all advisory roles, pending an internal review. At 9:30, the Illinois Attorney General's office delivers a formal notice to Harmon Architecture regarding irregularities flagged in a nonprofit audit. I watch the timeline unfold from my father's study, which I have temporarily converted into a situation room. Renata's laptop tracks the filings. David monitors the financial feeds. I have a secondary screen showing my husband's firm's public calendar. His presentation to the Tribune Tower Committee is scheduled for 10,000 cents a.m. At 9:47, his assistant, a woman named Carla who accepted a position at a competing firm last Thursday, arranged quietly through Jason's network, sends me a single text: "He's in the building. Presentation is loading." At 9:52, my husband calls my cell. I let it ring. At 9:52, my husband calls my cell. I let it ring. At 9:58, he calls again. This time I answer. Something is wrong with the accounts. His voice is controlled in the way people are controlled when they are trying very hard not to sound frightened. The corporate card was declined this morning and I'm getting freeze notifications on the joint account. Have you? That's strange, I say, my voice easy, unhurried. Have you called the bank? I'm about to go into the Tribune Tower presentation. Then focus on that, I tell him. I'm sure it's just a processing issue. Good luck. At 10,003, I receive a text from Renata. He just stepped out of the presentation. He's in the hallway on his phone. At 10:11, the Attorney General's notice reaches his firm's senior partner. At 10:19, his firm's managing director calls an emergency internal meeting, one my husband is not invited to attend. At 10:34, the Tribune Tower Committee chair sends his office a polite email requesting that the presentation be rescheduled, pending clarification of the firm's current legal standing. My phone rings again. I answer on the second ring this time. You need to tell me what's happening. The control is cracking now. I can hear the hallway ambient noise behind him, the distant elevator chime. I know about Harmon's strategy group, I say. Quiet, conversational, silence. I know about the Delaware registration. I know about the 41 transactions over 18 months. I know about the foundation sub-accounts. I pause. I know about the earrings, Marcus. Victoria, I know about the Langham. I know about Wednesday lunches at the corner booth. I know that she's been filing her freelance income under a company named after your last name, which she is not legally entitled to use, and which has been the subject of a non-profit fraud referral to the Illinois Attorney General's office since last Wednesday. He doesn't speak. On the secondary screen, I can see from the firm's building camera, accessible to me because I am listed as a founding partner's spouse with legacy building access, a detail Marcus never thought to revoke, that he has sat down on a bench in the lobby. How long, he says. Not a question, exactly. More like a man calculating damage. Long enough to make sure that when this day came, there was nothing left to improvise. I let that settle. Your managing director is in an emergency meeting right now. Your corporate card is frozen. The foundation board voted this morning, and Renata filed the divorce petition at 9 o'clock. Renata. Something flickers in his voice, surprised that it's someone he knows. Someone who sat at our dinner table. You've had Renata involved this whole. I've had a great many people involved, I tell him. People who care about me. People who understood what you were doing to my family's foundation before I even finished explaining it. A long pause. Through the building feed, I watch him press his free hand to his face. I can explain the foundation transfers. There was a cash flow problem at the firm and I intended to repay it? I finish. That explanation will be very interesting to the Attorney General's office. I've taken the liberty of preparing a complete annotated timeline of every transaction for their review. It includes the earrings. Another pause. You really should read documents before you sign them, Marcus. It's basic practice. I end the call as Renata texts. Phase 2 confirmed. His managing partner just requested he not return to the office pending review. Megan, I learned from David's afternoon update, attempted to access Harmon Strategy Group's operating account at noon. It had been flagged and restricted as of that morning as part of the broader financial review. She contacted my husband 4 times between noon and 2 o'clock. By 3, she had retained her own attorney. This is the part of the story where I had a choice to make. The comment I've heard from people who learn pieces of this later is always some version of, "Why didn't you go after her harder?" Here's my answer. Megan Walsh made choices that were wrong, and she will carry the weight of those choices in ways that will outlast this week. But Megan Walsh did not stand at an altar and make promises to me. She did not sign her name to my family's foundation documents. She did not spend 12 years building a life inside the trust I offered freely. He did. So I let the law handle Megan's portion, and I focused my attention on what was mine to reclaim. By Tuesday morning, the story had reached Crane's Chicago business. The headline was Careful, Legally Precise, Harmon Architecture Under Review, amid nonprofit audit inquiry. By Wednesday, 2 of the firm's major clients had quietly requested project status updates in language that suggested they were exploring alternatives. By Thursday, my husband's managing partner had formally suspended him, pending the outcome of the investigation. He tried to come home Monday night. I was not there. I had moved to my father's house in Lincoln Park, the house I grew up in. The house where my father sat in his wheelchair last Tuesday and watched me lay out the documents and said nothing for a long time and then said, "He forgot who you are." Like he was reminding himself as much as me, my husband sent 17 texts between Monday evening and Wednesday morning. He called 11 times. On Wednesday afternoon, he sent an email, long, formal, almost lawyerly in its structure, which told me he'd already spoken to an attorney, asking if we could meet to discuss a resolution. I forwarded the email to Renata without responding. On Thursday, Megan gave a statement to a financial publication. She characterized herself as a young professional who had been misled about the nature of the company arrangement, who had believed the consulting work was legitimate, and who was fully cooperating with investigators. She was careful and strategic and clearly had good counsel. I sent her attorney a brief professional note acknowledging receipt of her cooperation notice and wishing her well in her next professional endeavor. I meant it. To the extent that I meant anything about her at all. What I did not tell her attorney was that 3 of the emails Megan's team turned over to investigators, emails she believed proved her innocence, were ones I had ensured she would find. A careful paper trail pointing directly at the account structures my husband built, documented in his handwriting, his decisions, his instructions. I gave her the exit. In exchange, the investigators got everything they needed. 6 weeks after filing day, I'm in my father's office at the foundation. It has a view of the lake. On clear days like this one, the water looks like hammered silver. The divorce is finalized as of 2015 this afternoon. Patricia called me from the courthouse with the kind of warmth that comes from watching something difficult conclude correctly. The foundation has recovered the misdirected funds plus interest, secured through the settlement terms my husband agreed to in exchange for a deferred prosecution agreement on the nonprofit charges. His firm has restructured under new leadership. His name has been removed from 3 projects he designed at the client's request, a detail that, I know, hurts him more than the financial penalty. He is a gifted architect. What he built with his hands was real. What he dismantled with his choices was realer. Renata is on the couch across from me reading something on her phone. She laughs quietly. His firm's new managing partner just announced a restructuring initiative, she says. They're emphasizing ethical leadership and institutional transparency. She looks up. You want to hear who they brought in as independent ethics counsel? I smile. Howard? Howard? I look out at the lake again. My father's pen is in my hand, the one he used to sign the foundation's original charter 30 years ago. I used it this afternoon to sign the final divorce documents. There's something right about that I don't need to explain. My phone lights up. A text from my husband. I understand now what I threw away. I'm sorry, Victoria. I know it's too late. It is too late. By almost 12 years, if I'm being precise about it. 12 years of slow drift, of being looked past at his firm's dinners, of watching him accept credit for work that ran through my network, my family's name. The relationships I cultivated before he had a business card worth printing. I don't say this with anger anymore. Anger was something I processed quietly over 11 months of spreadsheets and late nights in my father's study. What I have now is something that feels more like clarity. I set the phone face down on the desk. Forbes wants to do a piece, Renata says, scrolling again. Women in nonprofit governance. They specifically mentioned the foundation's recovery as a model case. Tell them yes, I say. It's time to tell the story the right way. The sun is moving down over the lake, and the light is turning the color of old gold. My father built this office so he could watch the sun set over the water every evening. He told me once that every ending looks like this if you've done the work correctly, like something burning clean, like something making way. My husband thought he was the architect of our life. He designed the structure, yes, but he never understood who had poured the foundation. He should have read the documents more carefully. He should have remembered who he married before he decided she wouldn't notice. He should have known, men like him always forget, that the woman who seems to have everything to lose is very often the woman who has already quietly made sure she has nothing left to lose at all. The lake turns silver again as the light drops. What's next? I think, picking up my father's pen. Everything is next. Because the thing about a foundation, a real one, the kind built to last, is that it doesn't shake when something falls. It's what allows you to build again.